What's good guys, my name is Oleg Nikitin, you're watching No Limits On channel, and I've switched my main camera. So as you might know guys, our backpack with $10,000 worth of camera gear was stolen in Italy in our trip, and my Sony a7S III and all of the full frame lenses were also stolen. So my main camera right now is, which I'm using right now as well, is the Sony FX30 with the Viltrox 13mm f1.4. Viltrox kindly sent me this lens kind of half a year ago, and I didn't sell this lens because I wanted FX30 as a B camera, but now it's my A camera, as you might have guessed. I had one full frame lens with me, at home, which was Tamron 17-28 f2.8 lens, but I sold it because I needed to buy a new lens. So right now I have three lenses, the 13mm, as I said before, and also two more lenses. The first one is a Viltrox 28mm f1.8, which is a full frame lens, but on my crop sensor camera, it is going to be around 42mm, I guess. So for creative shots, it's gonna replace my Sony 35mm f1.8, which was stolen as well. And I also had 24-70 f4 from Carl Zeiss at Sony collaboration, but it was also stolen. So right now I've changed it to Tamron 17-70mm with vibration compensation, or VC as Tamron call it. And it's a pretty good lens. I have no complaints at all. The vibration compensation helps a lot, and the bokeh is pretty nice, and it's pretty versatile because it's an equivalent of 25-105 lens in the full frame equivalent. So I took this kit to my reportage shoot for about 8 hours, and I've been shooting in an airport, in the huge kind of garage for airplanes, and it's a pretty dimly lit environment, and I had zero problems with ISO performance because in S-Log3, if you use native ISOs of 800 and 2500, it's more than fine, but occasionally I was using 6400 ISO, and it also performed pretty good because this camera is not that bad for an APS-C camera. And also I've been using Sony FS7 crop sensor camera for like 5 years, and it has the base ISO of 2500, and also I didn't have any issues, and my fastest lens was Sigma 18-35 f1.8, and I was more than fine with it. So in my case, it's not a huge problem. Of course, I do miss 12800 native ISO of the a7S III, but still guys, FX30 performs more than fine in low light if you have faster lenses. Of course, f2.8 is a little dark for some kinds of shots I took, but f1.4 and f1.8 worked more than fine. There are some other advantages of the FX30 compared to a7S III, such as variable shutter function, which I wish Sony implemented with the firmware update to the A1 or a7S III, but it's not there. It's still not there. Come on, Sony. And in this location, inside of the airplanes, they were kids, they were having an excursion right there, and all the time with the a7S III I had issues with flicker, and any shutter speed I used, 1/100 or 1/50, 1/60, it was flickering. There was no single shutter speed that had zero issues with this flicker, but with the Sony FX30 I applied 1/92 and it was pretty fine, just flawless, no flicker at all. Also, this camera allows you to upload your own LUTs, and I'm using my own LUT for S-Log3 with -2 EV value, so I expose correctly at +2 EV all the time. This is a game changer because I can use my camera on a Steadicam without implementing the external monitor. I had Atomos Ninja 5, but it's also stolen right now, so I had another monitor at home, Shimbal. And I have a review of it on the channel as well. It's a pretty good monitor. It's 1000 nits of brightness, pretty good color accuracy, and all in all I'm more than fine with this monitor, so I'm not going to buy Atomos Ninja 5 one more time right now, at least as for now. But still guys, using the built-in screen to properly see your picture, to properly white balance, to properly expose is a game changer for me, and I wish all Sony cameras are going to have this feature built in. even the kind of beginner cameras. So right now I'm using auto ISO function. I'm shooting at f1.4 right here in the forest, and I'm using the auto white balance feature with a little bit of magenta shift, so my face is not looking too green because of the leaves all around. One more thing I've noticed is that the steady shot in FX30 appears to be a little less efficient than on the A7S III. I don't know why, maybe because of the worse rolling shutter performance, but all in all, it was okay, but not super good. For instance, when I was using the 28mm f1.8 lens, shooting handheld, even in steady shot active mode, I had some problems, but with the Tamron, with vibration compensation, it was more than fine. One more pretty cool feature of the FX30 is the fast menu system for video shooting. It's very convenient to use this system, and I was feeling that I'm much quicker at changing settings, and all in all, this camera is really made for video shooting because it's a matter of half a second to change any setting, and I've customized my camera a lot. I have even dedicated tutorial video how I customized my camera. You can watch it on my channel as well. And all in all, it's a fast and really easy to use camera if you do know all the functions. And one more benefit is that right now I'm using a very lightweight gimbal, Moza Aircross S, on my extended arm length. It's a bit heavy, that is why I'm breathing sometimes heavily, but still it's much more convenient than using the DJI Ronin S, which is much heavier, and I was using it together with Atomos Ninja 5 monitor on top of my Sony a7S III camera, and it was like 3.5 kilograms setup, and my back was simply hurting all the time that I was using this setup. So right now it's much easier for me, and the quality of stabilization is more than okay. And to be honest guys, I have already edited and color graded all the footage I've shot with the FX30, and I was using the a7S III in the same location like half a year ago, and the videos, they look really similar. I had like no chance to tell the difference between those two, even though it's a crop sensor camera, but the bokeh was pretty fine. The stabilization is also okay, and you can push and pull the colors in almost any way you want. So yeah, I do feel okay with this camera being my A camera, and if you don't know that it was shot on a crop sensor camera, you wouldn't even understand it. Also in the same backpack we had a camera of my wife, Nikon D780, and it was also stolen together with all of her lenses. That is why we bought Nikon Z6 Mark II and some lenses like 28-75 from Nikon, and also 50mm f1.8 from Nikon. So occasionally I'm gonna be using the Nikon camera as my B camera, and also have the Sony a6300 as my C camera. So all in all, it seems like a pretty okay setup for even recording some courses or interviews, so I'm okay with that as well. In terms of my future plans for a full frame camera, I'm not going to buy the Sony ZV-E1 for instance, or another Sony a7S III or FX3, because I feel like Sony is going to release some kind of a cinema related camera in the nearest year, and I hope it will be like a7S Mark IV or something else like FX3 Mark II. So I'm gonna be waiting till this camera, and in terms of lenses, I've decided to pick 20-70 f4 from Sony, and also the G Master 50mm f1.4 when I'm going to buy a full frame camera next time. I think that 35mm was in my life for a very long time, like 3 or 4 years, as my main lens. My main lens. Whoa, sorry, it's a bit bumpy right here. Let me open the iris a bit. So yeah, the 35mm was like my go-to lens for almost 4 years, but right now I'm going to switch to a 50mm f1.4 lens to try to get some more cinematic shots, if you will. One more benefit of this camera, sorry for the kids shouting all around, is that it has a built-in fan, and I had absolutely zero issues shooting in 4K 50 or even 4K 120. And by the way, shooting in 4K 120 with a crop, with an additional crop, is not an issue for me until I expose correctly. So I was using the 2500 ISO, using the 4K 100 frames per second, and the footage is pretty much clean, which is good. So speaking of overheating, I had absolutely zero overheating because of the active cooling system, and this camera is perfect for things like courses, like interviews and all that. So it's a pretty reliable camera. It has the same memory card system. I've had to buy new memory cards as well. V60 is more than fine for all the codecs I need to even shoot in 4K 100 frames per second in XAVC-S or XAVC-HS codec. And speaking of battery life, it seems like it's a little bit worse than on the Sony a7S III, but maybe I'm a little bit too concerned about it. So I also bought original Sony batteries, 2 of those for this camera, because all of my original batteries were stolen as well. But yeah, like 1.5 hours of 4K recording is easily a good thing for this camera, and it will not chew through the batteries too fast, maybe even closer to 2 hours in 4K. And by the way, guys, if you are interested in content about Nikon Z cameras, I think I'm going to be making some content about Nikon Z, so let me know down in the comment section below if you are interested in this type of content, and all in all about different content about Sony APS-C cameras, lenses, and what you want to see on the channel in the future. Hope this video was helpful to you guys, and if you did like it, smash the like and subscribe buttons and the notifications bell. Please guys, take care of your equipment, and I'ma see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.